This is Bruno from Spain Guru, and this is the Moving to Spain webinar from Vision to Reality. Today is October 20th, 2025. And what will you gain today from this webinar? A clear step-by-step roadmap to relocate to Spain, guidance on legal, financial, and lifestyle planning, insights to choose the best location for your needs, key preparation tips and practical tools, and confidence to make your move a success. So remember that the content of this webinar is for information purposes only and is not legal nor financial advice. A little bit about SpainGuru.es. Our objective is facilitating the relocation process for English-speaking foreigners to Spain since 2014, and we have wonderful reviews out there on Trustpilot. I think now we are at 181 reviews, 5-star reviews, and 77 on Google. So yes, you are in very good hands. And you can use Spain Guru for absolutely free. You can join our weekly newsletter that I send every Monday, where I feature top discussions on our groups and community, and also investigation blog posts, most watched video of the week, and much more. We also have a YouTube channel with more than 1,000 videos, more than 7,000 subscribers, where I upload also all our 6 webinar recordings, and blog with almost 2,000 articles, with visa guides, Spain's destinations, and so much more. I mentioned the Spain Guru's community is huge, an aggregated total of 150,000 members, with many dedicated groups about Spanish immigration, non-lucrative visa, digital nomad visa, Americans in Spain, etc., etc. So many communities there to join. All this is absolutely free. Now, if you need legal or expert advice, at the very least, I highly recommend you engaging with immigration experts and tax advisors before deciding to move to Spain. Those, I think, would be the minimum services that I would definitely pay someone who is an expert, so that I know exactly what to expect from my move to Spain. Definitely, I would do those, okay? It doesn't have to be Spain Guru's recommended ones, but of course, you are in very good hands if you use my personally vetted recommendations. All of them, I have been recommending them for several years, so you are in very good hands. If you decide to apply for visas as well, you can find visa-compliant health insurances, financial planners to take care of your investments, your wealth once you move to Spain, cross-border taxation, etc., medical certificates, sworn translations so needed for visa applications, and many more procedures, apostille services in the US and the UK, and many more services like opening bank accounts, money transfer services, property rentals, mortgages in Spain, especially designed for foreigners with no financial history in Spain, and so many more services. Also, I recently released a section called Move to Spain Checklist. I think it's easier if I show you SpainGuru.es website. Just go here. You can see the step-by-step Move to Spain checklist. This is very relevant, especially if you're in the Move to Spain webinar, that you know that you have this free resource. You can plan your move to Spain starting 12 months before your intended move date to Spain, and explore each of the stages with sub-steps. Everything is explained with videos, with articles, your visa options, your taxes, creating a budget, a free budget tool, etc., right? And even after you arrive to Spain, the different things that you need to do, okay, the minimum things that is suggested to do to have a smooth arrival in Spain. This is very nice section there that it's free, and also the also I recently released, if you're still deciding where to move to Spain or narrowing down your list, if you go also to SpainGuru.es, and you will find the destinations. Find your perfect corner of Spain, right? So here you can find, first of all, the different factors you should consider when deciding where to move to Spain. And then here you will have 13 different places that I think cover 95% of places where most expats move when they're moving to Spain, right? So for example, I don't know, Malaga here, you can find this full guide, which is absolutely updated all the time because I link to other services, okay, free services like WeatherSpark or Numbeo, okay, that are like all the time updated, right? All the time up to date, because those are community-based platforms like Numbeo, okay, where you can see the different cost of living, etc., etc. So definitely worth taking some time and looking at those tools that I share with you for free. Now let's go to the stages of this project of moving to Spain. You can create a project. Let's say if you're project minded, you can dissect the project of moving to Spain into at least 9 stages. The first one is creating a vision. Second one, a schedule or roadmap. Third, a destination or place to move. Budget, talking about money, or immigration possibilities. Housing, how to find a house once you move to Spain. Your arrival in Spain, and how you build your community so you feel at home faster, and the emotional journey you can expect when you move to a new place. Let's first start with vision. Number one, and why is vision, having a clear vision of your move to Spain, so important? It's because it will really guide every decision that you make, and it will be especially useful to have a clear vision of your plan to move to Spain when you are in doubt, when you have different options, you don't know what path to take. Reviewing your vision, what you want from your move to Spain, will help you decide among the different options. And how do you build that vision? Well, first of all, you'll have to do a mental exercise of thinking on how your ideal day looks like once you move to Spain. Yes. What are you going to be doing every morning, every afternoon, every evening? What type of work-life balance are you going to have? If you're going to be retiring in Spain, what type of social life you're going to have as well? Yes. What type of leisure activities you want to do, right? You want to travel around. You need to be close to a transportation hub, important airport that will enable you to visit other places in Europe, or are you okay being next to the coastline? Are you okay being inland? Yes, and the size also matters. Are you willing to move to a small town, or you prefer to be in a bigger city that has more things to do, let's say more culture offering, etc., etc.? That's very, very important that you start really thinking about how your life in Spain would look like, right? And then something that you can do is be a little selfish. Think about yourself. What are those 3 non-negotiable things that you can identify when you will move to Spain? What are the things that you really want to have? If you're thinking about moving to Spain, it's because you want to have something, right? What are the, if you can narrow it down to 3 different things that are deal breakers, okay, for you when you move to Spain, what are those 3 non-negotiables, right? And I propose you to do a little workshop, okay, with different steps that can help you build that vision. First, define those 3 non-negotiables. Second, visualize your perfect day. Yes, morning, afternoon, evening. And then once you thought about your perfect day, think about the difference between a weekday and a weekend. Yes, it's going to be different, maybe, right? It's not going to be the same, a Sunday than a Tuesday, right? The pace of life changes during those different types of days. And once you have made that difference, then you can zoom out to the different months. Maybe what you do in January is going to be different than what you do in August, right? Or in December, Christmas time, right? Are you planning to go back to visit family in your origin countries? Are you planning to stay during the holiday season in August in Spain, or maybe travel around? All those things, try to think about it. And then, even longer term, what are you going to be doing in several years? Maybe you just want to take a sabbatical year, just 1 year or 2 in Spain, and then it's fine. You want to then go back to your origin countries or go somewhere else. Or maybe you already know Spain and you know that you want to spend long term, okay, in Spain. So try to think, are you willing to stay in Spain several years, potentially go for the long-term residency? in Spain, potentially even obtaining the Spanish passport. Is that something that should be included in your objectives in the long term? So think about all those, right? Then you can do another exercise, which is step 3, create your vision board, right? Where you choose images. For example, you could screenshot things in your computer, or get a magazine and do it the old-fashioned way, like doing a collage with a scissor, and build a vision board or symbols that represent visually, okay, and ideally your dream life in Spain. Step 4, very important. You're moving alone. It's as important even if you're moving alone. Very important if you're moving with your couple, for example, or with family, that you share that vision, okay? And those 3 non-negotiables that are part of your vision, because it's important that you are aligned, that you have a common idea, right? Yes, a common ground. Otherwise, you will have unexpected and probably not very good surprises if you haven't spoken well enough in a structured way what to expect once you move to Spain with your spouse, right? So everyone should be at least, somewhat aligned on what to expect, right? So it's important. If you're moving alone, yes, of course, you don't have to align your vision, but potentially seek advice from people who are in that situation or were in that situation, right? You can join Facebook groups, you can join Reddit, and check whether your vision makes sense, right? Or get feedback from others who were in your place, okay, or who are in your place and receiving that feedback. Of course, you can ask that feedback to friends, to family, etc. But it's also very good that you do it also with people that have been, going through that and can give you some advice as well, right? And then step 5 is moving from the dream to the planning stage, right? And for that, you can set an action plan of what you can do in the next 30 days that could get you closer to moving to Spain, right? So identifying a few practical things that you could do in order to do that. Maybe it is investigating, right? Maybe it is narrowing down a list of places where you would like to move. Maybe it is looking at prices of real estate. Maybe it is building, a proto budget, okay, or looking at cost of life. Maybe it is joining those groups, that I mentioned from the community and start engaging with others. Yes, a few practical things that put you already into the action plan, even if it's investigation, right? There's a video that I have on Spain Guru's YouTube channel that you can find today, things you must do before moving to Spain, which is building the vision, okay? Here's the QR code that you can link. And once you move to the investigation phase, okay, which is the initial phases of the action plan, you probably will use different tools that, thanks to the internet, you can find for free. First of all, Google, of course. YouTube is also very important. As I said, Spain Guru's YouTube channel is, of course, one of the most relevant for this process for moving to Spain. But of course, there are many more with YouTubers who show you how things are with different angles. Okay, like some more about the leisure part, some more about the procedures or cost of life, etc. Then ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, all those AI tools are also very good to use to investigate. Then important, in my opinion, Google Maps. I love maps, and Street View. Street View lets you see exactly what you can see from a corner of a city in Spain, for example. You can see the cars, you can see the street, the houses, the apartments, okay? You can see the people walking around. So it's important that potentially from the comfort of your sofa in wherever you are, you can see how those cities look like. Yes, how the different neighborhoods look like. Is it hilly? Is it flat? How are the distances, right? Especially for Americans who are used to do long commutes, okay, or driving the cars for a long time. Potentially, it is quite a big change, yes, to move to a city where everything is narrow. There's not big spaces. The distances are maybe smaller, than in your origin countries. So yeah, basically, it's very important that you start picturing it, right? Then WeatherSpark is an amazing tool that you can use to compare the different climates. You can compare up to 7 cities anywhere in the world, including Spanish cities or American cities or cities in the UK, and see the different charts, okay, for temperature, for humidity, for wind, for cloudy skies. So much official data there, and it's very, very interesting, okay? Um, then Idealista is a big portal, big real estate portal in Spain, Portugal, and Italy that has beautiful maps as well with a lot of data that you can check just to see the different, costs, not only from by province but also more granularly, right? By city and even the neighborhoods inside the city, and even by the different blocks if you wanted. But yes, it will give you a more granular idea on potentially where to move, even inside within a city, right? Then Numbeo is a community-based portal where people share the cost of the different things that they buy. Could be food, groceries, it could be rentals of different sizes for apartments, could be anything, right? Also, there are like crime index, um, yes, quality of life index. It's very interesting portal, and it is quite updated, and the bigger the city, the bigger the community, so the less, let's say, error margin that there is. All right. Then joining the Facebook groups that I mentioned. Spain Guru has a lot of groups that you can join today, and of course using Spain Guru. So as I just um, explained you, spenguru.es, 100% of it is for free, and I recommend you engaging with professionals that I vet. But spenguru.es by itself, it's absolutely free to use, so definitely worth taking a few moments to check it out, because I'm sure you're going to find interesting things there as well. Then we move to the second stage, which is schedule or roadmap, right? So we went to the dream, from the dream to the idea, right? The vision. And then from the vision, we're going to link to the action plan. And in order to build an effective action plan, you need to stay organized, right? And how do you stay organized? By building a schedule, a roadmap, right? It's important because if you're not organized, there's so many things to pay attention to that it will be quite chaotic. You're going to have to face deadlines, okay? You're gonna have to gather documents. Those documents have expiration dates. You will need to anticipate things, okay, and potential delays, deadlines for tax reasons. There are holidays in the calendar, so many different things, okay, in order to build the plan of moving to Spain. And for that, having a clear schedule and roadmap is essential, right? How do you do it? First thing is you set your move date to Spain. For example, next year on October 20th, 2026, I want to be living in Spain. And then what do I need to do in order to make that thing happen, right? So we're going to build it backwards from there. So there's 12 months till that date. What do we have to do? That's why the Move to Spain checklist on SpainGuru.es can be extremely helpful to help you structure the different things that you may need in order to move to Spain. But of course, your personal and individual situation will have its own flavor, right? For example, you want to sell your house where you're living today, right? Or you need it's not the same someone who is moving with the family. It's not the same someone who is moving to retire to Spain, yes, or someone moving temporarily as a, let's say, sabbatical year, or just to work for a company in Spain. It's not the same, right? But at least you will have the most common deadlines or milestones that you need to accomplish in order to move to Spain on a certain date. Then, very important, once you have identified your milestones, yes, then you will have to assign time frames. Yes, because maybe, for example, selling a house can take several months, right? If you don't want to sell it for too cheap, you're gonna have to for that milestone a certain time frame that is gonna be several months, right? Obtaining a visa for Spain, yes, for example, a non-lucrative visa, can also take months, from preparation to document gathering to submitting documents, to the processing of a visa until you effectively have your visa stamped on your passport can take several months. So identifying the different time frames is very, very important. And also allow for details, because we don't control everything, and things also tend to maybe take longer time than we initially expected. Sometimes it's the opposite, which is great, but sometimes it will take long. So in order to start creating a schedule, here's a workshop. As I said, first choose a date in the future. The longer in the future, the better, because it will let you plan better. Okay. Step 2, identify milestones that you need to accomplish in order to make that date of moving to Spain true or real. Step 3, identifying action plans, but let's go more granular. For example, what do I need to do 1 year before that? Okay, investigating, for example. Yes, 6 months to 3 months before. Already you will have to start executing. You will have to start maybe gathering documentations for applying for a visa. 3 to 1 month before, you already have your visa sorted out. Now you need to pay attention to moving to Spain, right? And then the final weeks and after your arrival, all that should be planned and organized in a schedule, right? And step 4 is a little bit more open, but it's about anticipating challenges, especially challenges you may face. For example, you're moving with family, you will need to sort out the school enrollment for your kids, right? So this is a challenge that, for example, a retired couple won't face. Yes. And that's why it's so important to read firsthand experiences from others who moved before you and who had to face those challenges, and potentially they are willing to share their ways to solve those challenges. For example, on a Spain Guru Facebook group, this couple share their journey from London to Alicante, and they talk about different things, right? Like moving their stuff to Spain and their timelines, the problems that they had with the problems that they had to solve with importing goods, okay, with their health certificates, with empadronamiento or registering at the city hall, or this other young couple who are actually interviewed on Spain Guru's YouTube channel, who moved on a non-lucrative visa from New York City to Andalusia. So yeah, definitely reading about others' experiences, and also you can watch YouTube videos of people who tell their stories on camera. It is also extremely helpful, okay, to identify those potential obstacles on your way. Then, once you have thought about all this, starting to put on a piece of paper or on your computer, right, on an Excel or on a Google Sheet or on a blank document, identifying those milestones and time frames visually, right? And here, for example, this is a proposal where I talk about the different things that you must pay attention to based on the stages of this webinar. First month, vision and destination. Second month, immigration, tax planning, budget, schedule, so investigation. Third month, reviewing your vision after that you have challenged your vision to the investigation that you did. So reviewing your vision is also something that you need to be doing recurrently. So it's pretty important. And then once you have taken the decision, is this the right move? Is it aligned with my vision? Everybody's on the same page. Applying for a visa. You apply for a visa that takes several months, potentially sell your home, or potentially decide to rent out your home, okay, and keep it in your origin countries, and you get that income. But yes, of course, that will have tax implications. Thinking about tax implications, etc., that also takes time, and it's important investigation. So allow for the visa processing, and then move to Spain, and then the different arrival steps that you need to take once you are in. Now, this is a slide that I have borrowed from my Spanish non-lucrative visa webinar. It's a 1.5 hour webinar where I go very in depth into this visa. But yes, every single of those lines in these projects can or should be treated as a sub-project with their own timelines, yes, with their own milestones and timeframes, right? For example, for applying for this visa, you will need a police check, like the ACRO in the UK or the FBI background check. If you're moving with your spouse, you will need a marriage certificate. With kids' birth certificates, you need to get new original certificates that you will need to apostille and sworn translate, and all that takes time, right? Then you will have to gather financial documents from your bank, certificates, medical certificate, health insurance. If you're not a UK retiree, you will certainly need a health insurance. Or if you're moving as a digital nomad, you will need to gather say social security certificate or certificate of coverage or A1. So many things that you need to prepare in order to submit your visa application. That can be from outside of Spain or from inside of Spain, depending on the type of visa. So all that has some logistical challenge. Obtaining appointments with the consulates can be extremely challenging as well. You need to allow time for it. So yes, and then once you apply for the visa, it can take a few days to several weeks, if not months. For example, people at Manchester Consulate are waiting on average, I would say 10 weeks, 12 weeks for their processing of their non-lucrative visa. So think about that. And also being part of a group can help you get fresh information about the different time frames, like how long it's taking this visa to process at this specific consulate, etc., etc. So that's also important. In order to help you out with building this project, you can use a tool like Trello. It's like a card tool that you are moving the card from one column to another. For example, you have a to-do list, and once you've done that specific task, you move it to done column, for example. Or if it's in progress, because it takes several days or months, you can keep it in the in progress column. This is a great tool. It's free. You can have it in your phone, or you can use simply Google Sheets. Okay, that helps you have everything in the same place, but it doesn't have the same project management capabilities. Then you have Google Calendar, which is extremely helpful because every time that you have a deadline, it's good to have a calendar that reminds you 1 week before, 1 day before, and during the same day that deadline happens, so that you are mentally prepared for all that and you don't miss any single deadline. So Google Calendar is free, of course, and it's a wonderful tool. And joining the Facebook groups is very important to stay updated about how long each of the different tasks is taking for you and for everyone else in your situation, because there's thousands of people moving to Spain every year, and many people are going through very similar processes. Third stage is destination, right? So in your vision, when you design your vision, you need to decide what type of setup or environment you would like to move to. Is it a city? Is it a town? Is it on the coast? Is it an inland, right? And also, once you investigate, not every single destination is for everyone's pocket. So you will have to understand what kind of lifestyle you want to have and versus the one that you can have, right? It's not the same moving to Marbella to a mansion than moving to an affordable neighborhood in the outskirts of Valencia. It is very different. So Spain is for everyone's, has all the different possibilities. You have like luxury, and you can live very, very affordably, a great life too. So it is definitely something to consider. And in order to do this, budgeting is very important, but not the only key factors that you need to consider when narrowing down the list of places where you would potentially move. Or sometimes you have a destination in your head, but maybe there are other options that actually fit better what your vision is. In order to go through the different factors, I will tell you that climate and geography is very important, of course, right? A lot of people don't think about, for example, the terrain, if it has to be flat, or if it's okay if it's hilly or not, or if it's cool during the summer, right? This is something that you like. Maybe northern Spain is better, right? So all these things you need to have in mind: climate and geography, community and culture, right? So big city versus smaller town. What language do they speak? Because as you probably know, in Spain there are like local languages. Everywhere you can speak Spanish, right? And in most places you can get by just by speaking English, of course. But the smaller the place, or the more Spanish the place, maybe there is less possibilities to speak English and get understood. All these things you have to have in mind. Essential amenities is extremely important, like access to healthcare, international schools, for example, transportation. Are you willing to take public transportation? Or maybe if you live in a more inland place that is cheaper, that you can have a bigger house and everything, but maybe you are more dependent on using a car. Shopping areas, leisure options, all those things think about when choosing a place to live. As we said, cost of living is very, very important. Numbeo.com is great to understand that. Idealista.com is also very important to get that information. So yes, all those factors are important. This is a slide about the different climates. You can see, you can basically narrow down the type of climates to 5. Yes. The north, the green one, is oceanic climate, cool and rainy. The orange one, all around the coast in the south and in the east, Mediterranean climate, mild, rainy winter. And this is where I would say 85% of people want to live, yes, in this orange area. Then you have the continental climate in the center. Madrid is in the center. Zaragoza is in the center. You have the brown one for the mountains. Spain is a very mountainous country, right? And yes, then there is Mediterranean climate. It's a variation of the other climates, which is with very hot summer in yellow, like Seville, Mérida in Extremadura, in Murcia, or maybe in inland in Almeria. Yes, so all those things you need to consider. For this, weatherspark.com is a fantastic tool. As you can see here, I am comparing Valencia with New York City, Miami, Los Angeles, and London. Yes, and you can see the chance of clear skies, muggy conditions, precipitation, low temperature and high temperature. Yes, and all divided by months. So yes, you get all the information there even before organizing a scouting trip. As I mentioned before, Spain is very, very mountainous. Oftentimes, people say that it is the second most mountainous country after Switzerland in Europe. This is not entirely accurate to say something like this, but anyways, it is true that it is quite mountainous, and many important cities in Spain are quite mountainous, right, and are quite hilly. There are hilly neighborhoods in many of those cities, and for many people, accessibility is also a very important factor. So studying the accessibility and the different neighborhoods is also very important. This is Malaga, the city where I live. There is this interesting tool that enables you to see the different terrain variations, okay, even by neighborhood, right? For example, there are neighborhoods in Malaga where I wouldn't live because I have 2 small daughters and I still use the stroller, and it's very, very hard for me to go on hilly streets. So I prefer flat terrains because otherwise I just can't make it with all that weight. And potentially, like, senior people don't want to live on top of a hill, okay, unless they have a car and they don't mind driving those cars. So it's important to have that in mind, right? So joining local forums, also starting to listen to local news. There are many news in English, for example, news channels in English, but are local. So you start hearing about what's going on in the specific places where you are considering to move, right? Checking real estate portals, not only in the Idealista, but also fotocasa.es now. And you start investigating about the possible locations, right? Compare prices, services, budgeting, the different neighborhoods. And you join the communities and ask locals, expats or not, okay, about the different things that you are curious about those different areas, and also see other people's asking different questions that you potentially didn't think about. Now is the time to potentially, if you can, organize a scouting trip. There's nothing that beats being on the ground, seeing it by yourself, feeling the vibe of a place, right? And of course, the longer time you spend in that scouting trip, and the more active you are at gathering information by engaging with others, with realtors, maybe joining meetups, expat groups, etc., test that destination and how it fits your vision would be a very, very big recommendation I would give you. Okay, so you can start with the Spain's destination section and review any of the 13 cities and areas that I that you can investigate, okay, just to narrow down any of these 13 city guides. But of course, these are not the only ones. So you can use that tool for free and watch also all the videos that I have on Spain Guru's channel, where I talk about moving to Spain and I compare the different locations, even hidden gems, smaller towns. I have videos about that as well. So yeah, definitely worth checking out, and it's free. 4, building a budget. Now that we've been through all the previous stages, it's time to talk about money, right? In order to build a budget, yes, and it's important as part of a plan to have a budget that is, in my opinion, should be conservative, should be careful, about the different risks, okay, and fluctuations or changes that could be around, around the corner, right? So building a budget that prevents you from having any needs or having any bad surprises is, in my opinion, essential, right? You would have to think about one-time costs, okay, like visa fees, moving to Spain costs, initial setup costs, shipping stuff to Spain, all those things, like one-off costs should be in your initial budget. But then you have to build a monthly budget that lets you know how much you will need to cover that first year, potentially a second year of life in Spain. So you will need to include, of course, the different housing options, because that will have a huge impact on your budget. It's not the same renting. It's not the same renting short term. It's not the same buying a property and pay it from scratch versus getting a mortgage that you have to do recurrent payments. So housing is a big deal in your budget, and you will have to account for it, right? So renting, mortgage, also healthcare situation, it's important. Utilities, groceries, schooling. But yes, housing and healthcare are usually on the top of the list of things that you need to be considering for your budget and be conservative about. Then also, once you are starting to investigate and get more into the reality of the numbers, again, checking and challenging your vision. Cities versus more rural areas, living inland versus living exactly on the coast, front line of the sea usually is more costly than living inland, right? And one thing, taxes. Taxes is also important, okay? Taxes in Spain are not especially low, okay? You get a lot for them, okay? It's true. But it's something that you need to account for, that you will need to pay taxes once you become a tax resident in Spain. You would be liable for paying taxes on your global income and potentially on the net value of your assets, okay? And also, well, you also pay taxes in Spain if you're a non-resident, if you have income sourced from Spain, like you own a property and you rent it out, you have to pay taxes as a non-resident in Spain in that situation, right? So you become a tax resident in Spain, generally after 183 days of physical presence in Spain, in a calendar year that starts on January 1st until December 31st. Now, creating the budget and financial plans, as I said, one-off expenses plus recurrent expenses over the months is very important. And then preventing or anticipating currency and banking challenges is important. Compare exchange rates. Understand that when you deal with different currencies, there can be fluctuations. For example, now the dollar is weak against the euro. It was always like that until recently the dollar was paired with the euro. So we got accustomed to that situation, but then now we got back to where it initially was. The euro was always stronger than the dollar. Okay, but many people apparently didn't think of that in advance. And now they see that, their income that is sourced in dollars, well, doesn't, count as much as before. So it's important to anticipate that risk and manage that risk and other risks, okay? Fluctuations in your income, higher rent because you couldn't find the cheaper rent, utilities, for example, different risks should be accounted for in your budget and plan accordingly, right? Also, different types of visas, right? If you're a non-EU national and you want to stay in Spain more than 90 days, You will have to go for a visa for sure. And those different visas have different renewal requirements. And generally, those renewal requirements include a financial requirement. So you need to be over a certain threshold, okay, of money, right? Savings, income, etc., right? So you need to comply with those requirements financially when the time to renew your visa comes. So you need to plan ahead, right? So it's important. All those things are considered in your budget. As I mentioned before, numbeo.com is a wonderful tool to check and challenge and update the information about the different costs or the cost of living in the different cities. And you can actually use this tool also to compare, okay, not only the different cities in Spain, but also compare maybe with your city, your home city, so that it is easier to internalize the differences, right? Still, Spain is quite much more affordable, for example, than the States, okay, and the UK still is like that, but maybe the difference, the gap, is getting narrower, okay, especially after the inflation years after 2020, the year of the COVID. So yes, all these things will have a strong impact in your budget, your lifestyle. Yes. Renting versus owning, having a mortgage or not. Yes. All those things will have a very strong impact. So think about those. Yes. In order to build your budget, I have a free tool, which is the budget sheet that I share with you. You go to Move to Spain checklist, free budget tool, or you go on the top of the menu on spainguru.es, and basically you have access to a very simple Google Sheet with the most common things that you need to have in mind in order to build a budget. Yes. So definitely use it because it's free, and I think it doesn't have to be too complicated in order to be on the safe side. And definitely, it can get very, very complicated if you want. I see a lot of people on the on Spain Gurus groups sharing their budgets, and some of the budgets I have seen them, they are very complex. Clearly, those people, they have been working and they have experience using those sheets and Excel. You can see that they are good at it, but sometimes you don't need to go so much on steroids on that in order to build a budget. I think this one is a great starting point, and then you can go more granular or more complex from it, right? So preparing your finances on the move, right? How do you plan your taxes? Yes, we mentioned that in order to become a tax resident in Spain, you have different conditions. The most common is that if you spend 183 days in Spain plus in a calendar year from January 1st to December 31st, those days don't need to be consecutive. They are regardless of your immigration status. Those days will count and will make you a tax resident in Spain. Or if your main economic center is from Spain, or if your family is living in Spain, any of these three conditions, right? Key taxes to know is the income tax at progressive rates that range from 19% to 47% annually due on June 30th. The regional wealth tax, okay, that is a tax calculated on the net value of your assets. Depending on the region where you move, you're going to have a different threshold. Okay, for example, Madrid, Andalucía, Extremadura, and Cantabria are the most favorable ones. Maybe Catalonia is one of the least favorable ones because it has a lower threshold of 100K. I'm not talking about allowances or deductions, just for ballpark figures. Then you have the national solidarity tax. Doesn't matter where you move, you would be liable for it, but the threshold is much higher, starting at 3 million euros. Then there is the Modelo 720, where you had to declare the existence of foreign assets in different categories. If any of your categories go over 50,000 euros, you need to declare. Could be bank accounts, properties abroad, etc. And the deadline is on March 31st. There's capital gains tax. For example, if you sell your home in your origin country the same year in which you are a tax resident in Spain, you will have to pay capital gains tax in Spain for the sale of that house abroad, right? And the ranges are from 19% to 30%, also progressive brackets. Then there are many other taxes like inheritance and gift tax, which is regional, transfer tax. When you buy a secondhand property, you have to pay that tax as well, and it is regional, so strong variations. Madrid, Andalusia, the lowest ones in Spain. There is IBI, which is the property tax once you own a property in Spain, and so many more taxes, right? Then there's two tax regimes, the ordinary or general regime, okay? And then there is the special regime, which is also called the Beckham Law. Especially, this is directed at employees who move to Spain, right? So if you're not an employee, if you're a contractor or retiree, you will not be generally eligible for this special regime called Beckham Law, which offers a 24% flat rate for employment income, okay, and many other perks, right? So very important. The individual circumstances really have a very, very deep influence on the tax implications of your move in Spain. So always engaging with the tax professional is essential, in my opinion. You can find personally vetted tax professionals on Spaingood.es that are used to deal or work with foreigners moving to Spain. Of course, they speak all English. They they have worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of people moving to Spain. Definitely, it's important that you do it. But also, before going with that, and paying for the consultations, please join my Spanish taxes webinar if you're gonna go deeper with this important thing before moving to Spain, so that you have more, let's say, informed conversations with tax professionals, and you speak also the different language, the same language, yes, as tax professionals. That sometimes it feels that they speak a different language with different jargon, or they take things for granted. They think that you already know things. But of course, if you join my webinar for Spanish taxes, definitely it will help you also ask the right questions from scratch.
Just a quick moment. Over 60% of you watching right now aren't subscribed. That's a lot of people getting value without hitting that button. If my videos have helped you understand Spain's immigration process, visas, or life here even just once, please subscribe now. I'm working hard to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, and your click truly makes a difference. Thanks so much. Now, let's keep going.
Then let's go with the fifth stage, which is immigration, right? You need to move legally to Spain with a visa. If you pretend to stay longer than 90 days in Spain, you normally need to get a visa that will give you the right to obtain a residency, right? So the visa is the paper stick to your passport, and the residency is your immigration status once you live in Spain, okay? There are temporary visas, there is temporary residency, there is long-term residency after 5 years of legal residency in Spain. So yes, the most common options are the non-lucrative visa for those with financial means to live without working in Spain. Then there is the digital nomad visa released in 2023 for remote workers earning outside of Spain. There are different financial thresholds for these visas. Then there is the work or entrepreneur visa for those with a Spanish job offer, or if you present a business plan to start a business in Spain, also is doable. Then there's the student visa for studying in Spain. Careful, because student visa is not a residency, it is a permiso de estancia, and it doesn't count towards the legal residency requirement for the Spanish citizenship, and it counts as half of the time for the long-term residency requirements. Then there is the golden visa. Well, it is now defunct as of April 3rd, 2025. So it is no longer possible to obtain a residency in Spain by investment. Then there are other possibilities. A lot of people are moving to non-lucrative visa. And also, there are still golden visa programs elsewhere in Europe. I have a webinar on Spain Guru that talks about the Portuguese and Greek golden visa programs as well that you can join for free. Then there is other things that you need to have in mind. Yes, if you're going to apply for a certain visa, each visa is a world of its own. Okay, so they have different requirements, different ways to apply. Some visas let you apply from Spain. Some visas can only be applied from abroad. So all those things we have a strong influence. The processing times also vary a lot. Also, depending on which consulate you're applying, some consulates they have a huge workload and some problems with staffing, whereas other consulates don't have so much workload and they go smoother. So all those things come into play. Be careful, because if you don't comply with the requirements, it could lead to a visa rejection. It is not guaranteed that you will get the visa. You will have to submit and apply and be accepted formally. okay, by the authorities in order to obtain that visa. And that later will enable you the possibility of getting a residency in Spain, right? So it's important, of course, to come legally to Spain. Um, Remember, and also circling back to the schedule stage, that in order to apply for visas, you will have to gather documentation. That takes time, takes preparation, and many of the official documents now expire, right? Many people said like, oh, can I use the marriage certificate that I have from 1976 when I got married in Cyprus? The answer is no. You need to get a new copy, official copy, and you will need, for example, to apostille it by the Cyprus authorities, and then you will need to sworn translate it to Spanish. All those steps on the way take time, right? So be careful with that. um just to give you an example, right? And every document needs to be valid at the time of submission, so it's important. And in most cases, or many cases, you also will need to hire a compliant health insurance policy. And by compliant, I mean that Spain wants to see you covered, okay, in terms of health, and generally it has to be a important policy that has no co-payments, no deductions, generally no reimbursements, has to be issued by a company authorized to operate in Spain, has to be covered from day one. So not all policies are compliant. You need to go with a compliant policy, and normally you will have to pay a full year in advance for that, okay, for the application. So of course, depending on your visa, it's going to be one requirement or another. Some visas don't require, depending on how you move. For example, if you move to Spain for a digital nomad visa and you will become an autonomo or a contractor in Spain, you will pay Social Security in Spain. Therefore, you don't need to have a private health insurance, right? If you want to know more about the most common type of visas, you have my webinars for the Spanish non-creative visa and for the digital nomad visa that I hold every 15 days, roughly. Let's talk about housing. Number sixth stage. When you move to Spain, highly recommend you do it as flexible as possible, because you are not sure that the place that you have selected in order to move to Spain is the right place to move, right? So keeping it flexible will anticipate potentially bad how you say them will let you escape potentially bad decisions, right? You thought you were gonna be happy in this neighborhood in Malaga. Maybe not. Maybe it's too hilly. Maybe it's not what you were expecting, right? Or maybe Malaga itself, you don't like it. It's not what you were expecting, right? So if you bought a house, then you would be tied up to that. It's very expensive. Okay, it is absolutely very illiquid assets. Once you buy in Spain, there's many taxes. So yeah, I would highly recommend you first renting short term, do a scouting trip, okay, all around. And then once you have narrowed down the list, if not to one single place, each city has a lot of variations, okay, very different neighborhoods. So going around the city and testing different neighborhoods is also a wise thing to do. And once you are sure and maybe you have the possibility, then of course buying a house in the long term potentially will save you money, okay, and it is potentially a good investment also to do it, right? But following those stages, yes, in order to investigate the real estate situation in Spain, probably you heard that Spain is going through a housing crisis. Depending where on Spain you're moving, the housing crisis is real or is not, because if there are towns out there that are almost disappearing, there are towns that don't have a housing crisis, definitely, because not many people want to live there. Most of people want to live on the Mediterranean coast, okay, in Barcelona, in Valencia, in Malaga, you name it. All those places, of course, there's a big demand and low supply. There's not too much construction, right? And in Madrid, the same happens, yes. But if you go more zooming in, you can see, for example, Valencia there's a map of Valencia. City center is more expensive. Malvarrosa or Cabañal is more expensive. There are other cheaper neighborhoods, but of course, there's a reason why some neighborhoods are more, are cheaper than others, okay, or more expensive than others, right? All that you need to investigate, and you can see that there's a big difference. For example, there, Malaga, 15 euros per square meter rental price, going up by 11% year on year, whereas Barcelona is 20, almost 24 euros per square meter, and going up by 14% year on year. So steeper increases in the rentals. So more dynamic markets. Be careful with that. So when you search for a home, be careful about how you do it. Yes, you have to be cautious. There could be scams, hidden fees, misleading listings, all that you need to find out, okay, and learn before sending money to anyone. You have to be careful. You have to make sure that the people you are talking with are reputable people with a track record, and so on and so on. Another thing to have in mind is seasonality, right? So the summertime in the coast is higher season. There's more demand even, so it's harder. A lot of landlords decide to rent on a vacational basis, and the prices go up. And but for example, in Madrid is the opposite. Summertime is low season. Yeah. So yeah, all this you have to have in mind. Also learning about the different types of contracts, like short-term, mid-term, long-term rentals. Ensuring that the terms are fair and transparent is important, and potentially seeking legal advice from a lawyer who works on your side, because it's important to understand also that realtors here in Spain may work differently, especially than in the US. In the US, it's very common that you arrive to a city and you engage with a realtor, and that realtor doesn't care which property you end up buying or renting, because they just search and they have access to all the rental market through the MLS system, whereas in Spain there's no MLS system, and each realtor has to gather their own portfolio, and therefore they're interested in selling you or renting out the properties that they have in their portfolio. Yes, and they don't have access to all the properties in the market, right? So there's a different incentive chain here in Spain. And also, realtors don't need to pass any exam or anything. It is a highly liberated profession here. Anyone can become a realtor overnight if you have something to sell or rent. So it is definitely a different experience than renting property in the US. Definitely different. And also, as I mentioned before, housing crisis in coastal towns, especially, has an increased challenge, especially for people who, well, for foreigners, especially for people who are retiring in Spain or don't have active income or a job, like non-lucrative visa holders, because a lot of landlords, are worried about who they rent their properties to. And the way it works now is that now there are strong tenant protection laws. So landlords have fear of tenants who stop paying rent, and eviction in this case is very slow. It can take months, even years sometimes. And landlords demand, in many cases, default payment protections, but the insurers who issue the default payment protections want a Spanish work history. And if you don't have work history or financial history in Spain, it's hard to get, or impossible to get, those default payment protections. Therefore, the landlords, they're not gonna want to rent you to you. Okay, so it is hard. Okay, I never heard of anyone who came to Spain and didn't find a place to live. Never heard of it. Like, oh, I came to Spain, everything, and I couldn't find a place to live, so I had to go back to my country. I never heard this. Okay, but the challenges exist, and you have to have in mind that and prepare accordingly and be flexible. So for example, staying at a short-term place until you get let's say a longer term rental is wise. Yes. Now, how do you arrive to Spain? Number seventh stage, your first 5 steps of arriving to Spain. These are a few of them. I have more steps actually in my move to Spain checklist, but first, now there is a new system when you come out from outside of Schengen area, which is a 29 European group of countries that is internally borderless. If you come from outside of Schengen, for example, New York to Madrid flight, you will get a scan of your face and your fingerprints, and that will count as a stamp in your passport. You're not going to get a stamp in the passport. This system is getting rolled out until April 2026. So it could be that now you find a stamp. Okay, you find a police control, immigration control, they will give you a stamp and everything, but it could also be that you find a machine who will scan your face and your fingerprints. Okay, right? And that will count as a stamp. But if you enter Schengen via another Schengen country, France, Germany, whatever, and then you go to Spain, that is internally borderless. But Spanish authorities, in order to activate your residency, they want to see what date you enter Spain, not Schengen, Spain. In order to do that, you have to be careful that you can prove it when you enter Spain. Okay. In order to prove that, many people show their boarding passes, gas bills, etc. Common way to do it also is to go to a national police station and get the declaración de entrada, which is a one-page document that you sign. They stamp it and they prove that you enter Spain on a certain date. Then registering to the padrón, for the padrón or empadronamiento, you register at the city hall in Spain, in the city where you live. You show your rental contract. Normally, city halls will not accept short-term contracts. They have to be maybe 6 months or more. Okay, so not every rental contract will count for empadronamiento. And empadronamiento is needed for many procedures, including the residency card that you need to get once you are in Spain. So registering for the padrón is definitely one of the important steps once you move to Spain. Then opening a non-resident bank account. Until you get your residency card, banks will not give you the option to open a resident bank account. But at least having a non-resident bank account is totally doable. You just go there with your passport, you show your visa, your ID, and they will open you a bank account so that you can pay your rent, your bills, your gym, etc. Then get a Spanish SIM card and combine it with your original SIM card or eSIM or service that you have, because you need to be able to receive SMS from authorities in Spain. That's very important, for the different procedures like appointments, etc., etc. And they will send you SMS. So it's good that you have a SIM card in Spain and also still have control of your phone from abroad, because you will need 2FA messages or whatever in order to control your bank accounts abroad and other services. So combining those two is very important. Then you have to get your residency card, okay, once you are in Spain for more than 90 days. Via your visa you obtain, or visa, DNB, whatever, you have to get a plastic card with your face, and you have to go to the national police station or foreign office in order to put your fingerprints there, and they will issue this residency card that shows your face, your NIE number or número extranjero, okay, and your immigration status, and that will be your residency proof. And this is a bonus step, okay, which is applying for digital certificate or clave, which basically it's a software in your computer or your mobile phone that you can use to sign papers and procedures online, which can save you tons of time to do things online, like, for example, the renewal of your visas. This is important. Other people also mention other steps, like getting your international driving license that you can use for the first 6 months, and after that you need to get the Spanish driving license. So yeah, all those steps have in mind. Yes, most brick and mortar banks will give you the option to open non-resident bank accounts. Another thing to have in mind is that many people want to send money to Spain, and probably the most common way to do it, this is not the only one, this is one way, is that you have British pounds, you have US dollars, you open a Wise bank account, you get a referral code on spainguru.es, and this is a portal where you can have like many different bank accounts in different currencies. So you send in dollars to your US bank account in dollars without it doesn't cost any money. And then inside Wise, you convert those dollars into euros. And once you have euros in your Wise account in euros, you send it as a normal, ordinary transfer to your brick and mortar bank in Spain, now that you have a non-resident bank account. And then now you have euros in your bank in Spain, and using platforms like Wise or Currencies Direct or many other ones will be much cheaper and with a better user experience than sending dollars directly to your bank account in euros in Spain. You will have more fees. It's going to take longer time probably to send that money. So have that in mind as well. This is about the mobile phones that I mentioned, having control over your original mobile phone, and also having a Spanish SIM is very important. And now let's go to the 8th stage, okay, which is community. In the end, we talked about all the ugly stuff, but according to your vision, there's something that you want once you move to Spain, and most people will want to build new community, to build new connections, And this is not only desired by most people, but it's also, in my opinion, extremely important. Okay. And how you do it is joining expat groups or not expat groups, local clubs, language exchanges, potentially like Spanish classes, right? Dance classes, sports, art workshops. There's so many things. This is one of the wonderful things of Spain, that there's so much going on everywhere you go, and people are, open to trying different things. So joining the culture and making new connections is, let's say, quite easy, even at older ages, where people report that they say it's harder to get friends. But there's many other people in your situation as well in general, so it's very, very good in Spain. So it's important that you do this, because when you connect with locals or people who are living in that same place, it will boost your integration, language skills, and support network. Even like if you're in a situation of need, having someone that can potentially help you is also very important. And the big elephant in the room is learning Spanish. Okay, for most of the people, one of the things I like about Spain is that they're not pushy about you to learn Spanish. You won't find many people saying like, "Oh, this is foreigners never learning Spanish," blah blah blah. In other countries, you can, really feel the pressure. Not in Spain, and this is a great thing. But on the other hand, learning Spanish is great, because even if it's a very cosmopolitan country, many locals, to put it mildly, don't speak a word of English, and if you don't engage with the locals ever, you're going to be missing out so much. It is very, very important, in my opinion, that you learn basic Spanish, which is a quite simple language to learn if you're an English speaker, because I don't know if it was 30 or 40% of the words are the same, are the same. They have the same origin, the same root. So it's quite easy. There is not so many grammar changes. I'm talking like, it's not like learning Russian or Chinese, right? Or Hungarian. Spanish, it is very, very close to English because of the French roots of English. So it is quite simple. It doesn't take too long to manage the essential things that you need to get by in Spain, or even more, right? So it's very, very important, in my opinion, that you do it. And you can find adult courses online on Spanglish.es with discounts and access to tutors in Spanish. And I think it is a very fun thing to do. I love languages. I speak 5 languages. And definitely, not only, it's a tool to connect with others, but it's also a way to see reality in different ways. Once you speak another language, you just, it transforms you as a person in a way, right? It's not, it's a full experience to speak another language and to connect with someone in a different language. It is really, really fantastic, in my opinion. And last but not least, the emotional journey. The ninth stage here is that when you move to Spain, you will have probably to face different phases. First one will be all about excitement and adventures, called the honeymoon phase. But then you'll probably get a reality check, especially when you face Spanish bureaucracy, which is hardcore, and some cultural barriers. And you will have to anticipate certain doubts. You will ask yourself, like, why did I come to Spain? Why did I decide to come to Spain, right? But the least that you prepared, the higher the chance that you face those doubts. But even if you prepared a lot, you did scouting trips and everything, until you move to Spain, you will not face the reality all the way, and you still will have doubts. Okay. Even for me, after 25 years in Spain, I still have sometimes some doubts, like what would have happened if I did this or the other, right? So you will face that reality check, and hopefully, with the help of a community, okay, with the help of um, acceptance and patience, yes, and enjoying the good things about living in Spain, which is a wonderful country, best country in the world, in my opinion, definitely by far to live. You will start to feel at home, and you will embrace this new lifestyle. Okay, so it's important. Stay patient, let yourself be kind to yourself. Most expats adjusting within 6 to 12 months. Okay, but also help yourself by building a community and integrating and doing stuff. Don't isolate yourself. It's very important, in my opinion. If you want to watch videos about this, where other expats on Spain Gurus groups share their experiences, I have a few videos there about people having regrets, about tips about moving to Spain. And yes, I don't want to be, negative or anything, but definitely you're human. Yeah, we're all human and we go through different phases. And I think like learning from others and how they overcame those blocks, it's important because it prepares you, and it doesn't surprise you in the end. You are expecting. It's not the same. It's not like a surprise blow. Okay, it is important in my opinion to learn about those, and if you don't face or you don't go through those, then better for you. Great. Some tips for that is being flexible. Bureaucracy is slow. You have to be patient. Learning Spanish. Keep an open mind and embrace cultural differences. Build your support network. Prepare, investigate the scouting trips. And I'm sure that going through all this will help you enjoy Spain fast, because it's a wonderful country for everyone I met here. I very, very seldomly met anyone who regretted moving to Spain because of the country or the culture or anything. Maybe they moved to Spain because of other reasons, because they have, family abroad that they need to take care of or whatever, or other circumstances. But the country itself is extremely wonderful and very, very welcoming. So let's recap the 9 stages. We have vision, schedule, destination, budget, immigration, housing, arrival, community, and emotional journey. We talked all about that. I remind you, you can use Spenguru.es for free. Everything is free on Spenguru. So many resources that you can use if you're planning to move to Spain. It doesn't matter what stage you are in this journey, Spenguru.es can help you out. And remember that if you engage with professionals, I have personally vetted a very long list of professionals, but at the very least, I recommend you to engage with immigration experts and tax experts, potentially with financial planners, depending on the stage of your life when you're moving. It's important that you have all that tied up and there's no surprises when you decide to move to Spain. But there's many other extra services like visa compliance, health insurance, medical certificates, sworn translation, apostle services, bank accounts, money transfer services, and so much stuff you'll need when you decide to move to Spain. Let's stay in touch. You can always send me an email to hello@spenguru.es. Facebook groups and webinars, please join today. Watch the webinars. I have 6 webinars every 15 days about taxes, non-lucrative visa, digital nomad visa, and so much more. Watch the YouTube videos. Newsletter that I send every single Monday. Actually, now it's one coming out right now at this time. I remember that the content of this webinar is for information purposes only and it's not legal or financial advice. Okay. I really appreciate you joining today. Thank you so much for joining. If you're watching this on YouTube, please comment what stage you are in your moving to Spain project, okay? And give it a like if you think the information that I have shared with you today is useful. You want to help others find this content, then definitely hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel is a huge boost for Spenguru, and I really will appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week and see you soon. Bye bye.